Welcome to episode 3 of the DWRD Net stationery feed. Today on the show we have Danielle Kindsfater, owner of Handmade, LLC. And Danielle, let's start. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did. It's amazing.
Okay, great.
Yes. It's extremely German. Yes.
So why don't we get started? Why don't you just introduce yourself and kind of give us a brief overview of, Happiness Handmade and your company, and then we'll move on to some standard questions, and then we'll get into, more detailed discussion about Happiness Handmade and what all you offer and how you do it.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's very exciting. And as a small business, I'm super pumped about it and I appreciate the opportunity for sure. We make planner and journaling stickers, specifically clear matte. There are a lot of stickers out there that have a white background or they're gloss finish, but we're specifically clear matte, which is just a personal preference of mine and something that I've enjoyed. And there are definitely, some other makers out there that do the same kind of product, but I feel like it's maybe not as prevalent as finding a glossy sticker or a vinyl or a white background. We like the versatility of the clear matte. So yeah, that's what we do. We make stickers.
Hey, stickers are very popular. You see them all over Instagram, social media and whatnot. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I have a few kind of standard questions that are just related to pens and stationery in general that I've been asking all the guests so far, just to kind of so people can get a sense of what some of your preferences are and kind of figure out, where you fit, or do they have similar preferences to you in the stationery world or different? So to start off along that vein, what got you into the pen and stationery hobby and how long ago was it roughly?
Oh man. That's a hard question probably. I mean, you have to almost think about I imagine some people like me have to think about like the whole of your life, like, I've always enjoyed journaling. Like I remember journaling in junior high school. I always really liked paper and pen. My mom was sort of she would buy whatever cutesy little notebook she found at Walmart or the dollar store or whatever. And they were always kind of around. But I specifically remember really liking to write by hand, really wanting to have good penmanship, and worked on that a lot. And I loved snail mail. And years later, as I was a little bit older, young adult, I realized that my grandmother kept a diary where she wrote 1 page a day without fail for decades. So we have these, and my uncle would they got to where they were buying her a specific notebook from Staples where she could do like 1 page a day. And we just have like these amazing treasures of her dedication and consistency with that we can look back over the years and see when grandchildren were born and what was happening that day. And so this idea of posterity, and leaving behind kind of the story of your life and legacy there, I always I've felt like a failure because people that journal, they want to journal, right? But who can keep up with my granny, she, until her memory started failing her, she just did that all the time. And I've always wanted to be that way. But I'm always fighting to find time to write, but I love it. And so, it's just slowly progressed, I guess, like many addictions in one's life. It just kind of grows over time. And it's grown into particularly, golly, I'm trying to, for sometime in the last 10 years, probably, I became really aware of the relationship between pen and paper. Like, oh my gosh, there's a certain feel here with this pen and this paper. And then sometimes, some people I think want one particular feel only, like they want to scratch. They want to feel a scratch when they write. Other people like me maybe vacillate where sometimes I just need a smooth feel. I need no interruption between my thought and my hand. I need to be able to just flow. And that sounds really artisty, right? You need to be able to just flow and and write without interruption. And so kind of depending on my mood, I've realized I need certain combinations and really enjoy particular pairings of pens and papers. It's really complex. But those are a few things that come to mind that kind of go into how I got into this. I didn't have anybody in particular like teach me the ways of all of this, it just kind of, I think, probably grew as a sensory thing and out of a desire to write things down for anybody that might come after me that would care whatsoever, so it's been a very fulfilling thing. And for me, and it may be the same for other people, this stuff about fountain pens and paper and stickers is really deep. It's a lot deeper than a hobby for many, where we're using it to leave a legacy behind. We're using it to achieve goals in our life that we want to achieve before we die. We're using these things to build relationships with people across the world. We've got pen pals. We've, these, things that facilitate relationship either in the past, present, or future. Like that's a deep thing. And fountain pens are just, and paper are just a tremendous tool. And hopefully my stickers, tremendous tool, in that bag. It's a very long answer, Derek.
No, that's perfectly fine. When you started and said lifelong, it makes me think. My elementary school, we had a school store, and you would save up your quarters, and you would go in and buy the new pencil and the new eraser or the new pencil box, and that's what everybody did. That 25-cent pencil made you the coolest kid until the next person bought the new 25-cent pencil.
I don't think I ever earned enough to get the pencil box. I was like, whatever tiny eraser I could afford with my good behavior, probably.
Yeah. Okay, so along the line of pens, what do you currently have inked? What have you been writing with lately?
Oh man. Okay. So the fountain pen thing is relatively new, in the last 5 to 8 years, maybe. Some of my daily writers are the Kakunos. I love them. They are flawless. They never fail me. I have dropped them on hard floors. I just abuse the heck out of them. I love them. They're cheap. I've just put a cartridge in them. I've got 3 Hows that are sort of this format here. This type of general.
The kind of standard cigar shape. In case someone's listening just on audio, it's kind of the standard cigar shape how she's showing on the video.
Yeah, this one's got a removable. It doesn't have the rounded cap on it at the top.
That looks kind of like a Jinhao clone of a Sailor, or a some of the pilots have the flat tops as well.
Well, yes, and so this is one of my favorite beauties. My husband got me this at Atlas Stationer, actually in Chicago last year, but this is a Pelican M200 cognac. See if it's going to work for us. No, it's not. Beautiful, it's cognac. You can't really tell. Huh?
I was saying because of the filter, it kind of was showing. You can see the shape of the pin, but then it would kind of goes through. But no,
but now the background is on it.
Yeah,
we can see it for like a half second. There we go. There it is. Okay, so we have that one. One of the other ones that I really love is a rose-colored Decimo.
Okay.
So it's the Click Pilot Decimo. Recently I got the Sailor Nagasawa, right? From Vance, and it's just a lovely beauty. This is a finer nib than I maybe typically use. And then more recently, my husband, who's just the most amazing, got me this beautiful limited edition. It's Visconti, and it's Virgilio, I guess is how you say it. But it's wow. she's so pretty. This is number 71 of 999 of the fountain pens. It's so fancy. I feel overwhelmed by how fancy that is. And then I really like it's sort of the Vanishing Point. It's a matte black. It's just a great writer. So great. So yeah, those are my, okay. People are going to hate me when I say this, Derek. They're going to hate me so bad when I say this. But I have a TWSBI, and she's gorgeous. It's a rose gold. I can't remember. Rose gold and smoke, I think is what it is.
Okay.
My first TWSBI ever. TWSBI everywhere. Everybody loves a TWSBI. But golly, it is such a temperamental writer. I have to pay more attention to this pen than any pen I've ever had. And the cartridge filler on the back is just always trying to move around and do stuff. I have dumped ink on my paper. It just wants to spit ink right out of its nib, It does fairly well with shimmers. Some people just have no issues ever with the shimmer, but initially I had some trouble. Maybe the microparticles were too big. I don't know, but got a different shimmer in it and it works well. So I'm really growing to love it, but it's been a process. But I do enjoy writing with it on certain papers for certain things, but I have to be mentally prepared to deal with what it's going to throw at me.
No, I mean, my wife, she has, she was one of those who started with one pen. I would only ever need one pen. Yeah. And now she has, I don't know how many TWSBIs. And a couple of them of them have been a little temperamental. If you haven't tried it, that might need to have the nib pulled and just reset or something like that. They use the same nibs as a lot of other pens, and normally for a TWSBI, if it's writing temperamental, it just needs to have the nib reset or something. So
it's something with the converter on the back. It just keeps like loosening up. It won't stay locked, and of course, I can't post it at all because God forbid it'll just like push ink out.
Is it the vacuum filler or is it a piston?
Yeah. It's a piston.
Okay.
I think it's a piston.
Because do you have to pull the...
Showing my ignorance here with the TWSBI.
Well, do you have to pull the little plunger out and then push it down when you fill it, or do you just twist it to fill it?
I just twist it.
Okay, so that's a piston. Okay. The other thing you might need for that is TWSBI actually sells a little wrench, or if you're over at Vanessa, they might have one. You can tighten the piston down a little bit.
What do we think about that, Derek? What do we think about that? We have to have a tiny wrench so we can use this.
I actually have one sitting here because Beth, one of her narwhals, she was trying to change the ink. And this is the little narwhal wrench that comes with it.
What in the
these
world?
Kind of generic wrenches that have the right size to tighten those vac filler pistons and whatnot.
Do people love this? Do people love having a pen that they have to tinker with? Maybe that's what it is.
Some people love tinkering with pens. Some people want the pen, like you said, your Kakuno. You put a cartridge in, it's going to write.
Yeah.
There's pens for everybody with preferences for everybody.
Yeah. I must not be the one for this. I am, but like I say, I feel like I've achieved something if I write with that one. So that's great, but I sure couldn't handle as many as your wife has. I couldn't handle it.
Well, luckily she has someone who's more knowledgeable, because if she has an issue with one, I'll come into my office at the house and there'll be a pen sitting on my desk. Even if she hadn't mentioned it, so I just know, okay, something's not working, or, cleaning out the vac fillers, she loves the pens, but she doesn't necessarily want to have to disassemble it. So, that's where
it's like, I fill my husband's pens. I fill all his, he doesn't want to have to put ink in them.
So along the kind of final pen related question, if you had no budget, money was no object, someone would give you any pen, what would it be?
I know exactly what that would be. It's the, I think it was the 20, say exactly now. I'm like, well, let me guess. I think it was, it's the 2024, I think, Pilot, capless, Vanishing Point, Whiskey limited edition. It's an ombre, like, brown, caramely ombre. I want that for my husband so bad. And I didn't know that it was a thing until after all of them were sold. And now you can find it on eBay for like $890. and or you see somebody who has it on Instagram and you're like, what pen is that? And they're like, oh, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, you shouldn't have it. You shouldn't be allowed to have it if you don't know what gold you're holding there, so that's one that I really would love to have.
Well, you mentioned Instagram. If you're not familiar, there's actually an account called the Virtual Pen Show.
Oh,
and
I'll write that down with one of my pens.
That's where if someone has a pen they want to sell, you can follow that account, and then it's just kind of like hey, this person over here, so Danielle wants to sell her TWSBI that is temperamental. If you want to buy it, contact her directly. $2. So it's kind of like a Craigslist type listing for pens, but it's you're only going to see it if you're following that account. So that's a handy thing to like seek out those limited edition or you missed out on type pens.
Yeah.
So moving forward from pens, inks. What are your general preferences? You said in your Kakunos you like cartridges. Are you do you like to have lots of inks? Do you use the same inks all the time? Or, you mentioned the fountain pen stuff is newer. How have you approached the ink collection or ink usage up to this point so far?
Probably so I had a couple of inks that were way back college days where it was just like a black bottle that I was like dip penning to write some letters. I didn't really know there was more than that, honestly, because I was in college and pretty dumb. But probably in the last 2 years, I've realized more of that. Right now, I think I'm sitting on about 25 large bottles, and then I've got 6 or 8 4 mils that I got from Vance and one from somewhere else. Looking at it, I've got predominantly Ferris wheel. I don't know. I love their packaging. I know they have a tremendous following, and I would love to follow. I like buying, I really like Birmingham inks. They're a small batch maker. You don't ever really see them much, But so I like buying small, but I for sure have so many Ferris wheel inks. I've got some diamines. I have a Robert. Is it Oster or Oster? How do we say that?
I've heard it pronounced both. I say Oster, but that might be incorrect. I think either are kind of accepted. It's kind of like you said, your last name, the spelling versus the pronunciation.
Kindsfater.
You would think it's going to be different. So it's probably that same thing. They're like, they just want you to own the ink. They don't care if you
I don't care what you call them. Yeah. I recently got a Dominant Industry, the Harbor of Deep, I think. That one's really lovely. Some of the Ferris wheels, I've got too fine of a nib and they don't want to put down enough color for me. So I have to, of course, use them in certain pens. But I like a lot of the neutral tones, and I never consider myself to be really like a blue person, but I do have several blues that are great. My favorite ink, I have 2 favorite inks right now, and that is the Tunes of Tinseltown by Ferris wheel. It is this beautiful green. It's like a deep green, almost with a little bit of teal to it. It's a shimmer. And then Curious Woods by Ferris wheel. It is a brown ink with a green shimmer, and it's magical. It's really magical.
So I have 2 follow-up questions related to Ferris. Well, actually, a comment and 2 follow-up questions. I wonder if your love of Ferris wheel is because of your artist background, because in Nashville, we have an art store that happens to sell pens, but they have the largest selection of Ferris wheel I've seen anywhere. They literally have like an entire rolling cart of just Ferris wheel, because Ferris wheel also has art inks that aren't fountain pen inks, and like calligraphy, because they also sell a lot of calligraphy stuff. So I wonder if that's just an artist thing where artists are going to be more drawn to that brand and packaging.
That's really interesting that you say that. And I have been in so many art stores across the country. Like whenever we travel, we look at antique stores and art stores. And so I've hit many. I've never seen Ferris wheel in any of them. I really haven't. So that's interesting. I think the first time I really saw Ferris wheel was at Atlas Stationer last year. So really over the last year, I've just so many Ferris wheels in one year. But
yeah,
I do think that there's I did a recent thing with some of my stickers, and instead of using my watercolor, it was all my inks. A lot of them were Ferris wheel inks.
Okay. And then, Ferris wheel, I know some people who love the inks and they hate the bottles because they are not stable. Do you run into that issue with the bottles?
Yeah,
where it's this nice round, beautiful looking bottle, and then it's got this tiny little flat spot on the bottom that they expect you to fill it with, or the neck is so small you can't fit the pen in it to fill it up to begin with.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like Twisby, and now they're going to sell a wrench. Ferris wheel has now sold these little pedestals, but they're all sold out, because everybody's knocking over their ink. But they have these cool pedestals, and I think it looks great with their branding. I don't know if it was an after the fact, like, hey, this is a problem. Necessity is often the mother of invention, right? And they have these beautiful stands that I think are tremendous. But I need stands for all of them. Yeah, it is a problem. You kind of hold your breath while you're doing it because you're afraid you're going to knock them over.
There are some people now who are 3D printing. They've designed 3D printed stands for the Ferris wheel bottles. I think my last guest, Butler Stationery, I think he sells those. But the store, since you mentioned art stores, and I'll put a link to this as well in the show notes, is Paper and Ink Arts. They do sell online, but they're based in Nashville. And, that's, they sell nationwide through online. But if you're ever in Nashville, that's a store you'd want to check out because it's they carry a couple of fountain pens, like some Kaweco and I think a couple of Esterbrook. So they're not a pen store. They are an art store that happens to sell a couple of pens because it seems like there's more crossover these days from the art world into the fountain pen or fountain pens into art. Like I recently started working with watercolor because it kind of has that natural tie-in. So
yeah, it does.
So moving on to the last couple of kind of standardish questions. You mentioned paper. What kind of papers have you been writing with? What are a couple of your favorite papers, or are there any kind of papers that you just don't like, that you just avoid?
Well, clearly with fountain pen, you're limited on some of your papers. I would say I'm leaning more toward what I do prefer and less of like having a list of what I don't like or won't use. I'm a huge Tomoe River fan, and I know there's a lot of hubbub about the Sanzen buyout and the new product this year and how that's performing in multiple different planners and notebooks. I have some of the Sanzen paper in a loose leaf format. I didn't buy any of the notebooks because I figured, well, this is their first go around. Let's see how they do, right? So I didn't invest in that, but we got some loose leaf of it, and it's done great. I've enjoyed the loose leaf. But because I've loved Tomoe River, my husband, who's tremendous, he, as a gift to me, I think Christmas, he outreached Good Ink Impressions. They're out of Spain, and I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but when Tomogawa in Japan announced that they were going to have to sell, basically, Hobonichi, this is what I've been told, but Hobonichi and Good Ink Impressions bought up the remaining batch of the original Tomoe River paper, or at that time would have been like Machine 9 and Machine 7, which was like the original. So, as I understand it, when Tomogawa first made it, their paper was made on machine number 7. And then that machine became problematic, and they moved to Machine 9 when they made their paper. Well, my husband got me from Good Ink Impressions multiple. I've got probably 6 notebooks. 4 are Machine 7 original Tomoe River. So back on the first like Tomoe River, golly, you can't even see it. It's like a mustard colored cardstock. They only have, as far as I know, the 68 GSM in the machine number 7. But we got notebooks of the 68 GSM, machine 7, and then we got notebooks of machine 9 Tomoe River. So I have multiple. And the machine, this is a navy B6 size. The machine that Good Ink Pressions makes their little notebooks on is like pre-World War II. It's an old machine. And I love that they are, they're working on this old machine, which is just like a part of history that is making this notebook that's right here, and then this paper is going to be gone. Like, it's going to be gone. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to write in these or if I'll ever write in them, but I have a little piece of paper in the back to describe exactly what they are. In case I die today, whoever comes after me might care what this paper is. So I have a stack of these that are precious to us. So love Tomoe River paper, love the history behind it, love, what the company's tried to do. And I'm hopeful about Sanzen paper for sure. And then the other thing would be, I think I've firmly decided that I'm a huge Stalogy fan. I love Stalogy notebooks. I love how they feel. I've tried, lots of different things over the years and enjoyed them, but I just keep coming back to the feel of a Stalogy paper, both with the pen and ink, the nib, but then just what it feels like when it's full. Like when you've written in it, it just is so great, and it does great with absorption. So I have multiple Stalogies, and, my preferred is a B6. I was A5, for a long time, but, if you have huge handwriting, you can't really do B6s. It just, definitely depends. But recently, where is it? Recently, out of I got it off Amazon, but it shipped from Japan, I think. I've never seen this, but it's a Stalogy B6 Slim.
I think those were just released. Yoseka, I remember seeing.
Really?
Was talking about they had just they were just receiving them into their store in Brooklyn.
Oh man!
So I think Yoseka sells those through their website now.
That's great.
That that's another great small business. If you've never had a chance to make it up to New York to their store, it's a cool little store. We went there this last Thanksgiving, but I believe they sell the B6 Slim, and there was one other. So there were two new Stalogy sizes, because I only own one Stalogy, and it's one that I haven't written in. It's the Yoseka edition A5.
Yeah, their collab they did.
Is sitting on the shelf that, I don't know what I'm going to use it for.
Yeah,
but
who
I wanted
cares?
to get one when I was there.
Yes.
But
yes, they have a cool ink situation too for their samples. Where it's something like if you get 10 of their ink samples, they'll ship you a box and a label where you can ship those bottles back when you're done with them, and then they give you another free ink sample out of that. They do like a sample exchange rate, which is, they've got the little glass bottle, so it's clearly like a cost-saving thing for them, but it's also pretty cool. If you buy a lot of samples, you can get like a free one. So they do some cool stuff, yeah.
So I did, the first year I ever bought a Hobonichi product was this year. I bought a Weeks, and it has the paper, and it's terrible. I
love
lost
the
lottery on that one. I love the size.
Sad.
I got this nice used cover, and actually it's right here.
Oh yeah, I want to see
a nice cover for it.
Yeah,
and then the paper, the bleed through, because I write really small. Almost everything I have is extra fine. And it had the really bad bleed through. I made a video on it.
Isn't that something with an extra fine? That's just crazy.
I mean, so that's my writing.
Yeah.
But you can see the bleed through, even through video.
And
that was just, it killed me, because I really liked the look and the size, and wanting to try something new. So maybe they'll fix it for next year. I'm gonna let other people buy theirs first. And see before I commit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, as a maker of something, I can appreciate that, we didn't get it right this time. But they're working off of this is a recipe from a company that did this forever. They're doing it, I think, on different machines. They're trying really hard to get it there, right? Like, the hope is they'll dial it in, so I'm hoping in the next few years they can dial it in, and not, I hope they don't give up because people are just like so mad and stop buying, right?
Well, another local store we have, Gentleman Stationer, talking to Joe about it one day, because he was looking at the paper and he was surprised at how much, in Japan, they use a lot more gel pens, or they're using Japanese nibs. And this is just my assumption, but a lot of the pen and ink combos that we're showing through are Western nibs or maybe Western inks. So there might be something in that their main market is going to be Japan, and then other people happen to buy it. So if your main local audience is using gel pens that write great on it and don't show through,
they may have less incentive to work on that.
Having that thinner paper, so you have a smaller, because I think that Weeks is maybe 43 gram paper. I mean, it's really thin. So, obviously the thinner the paper, but for a 2-sided calendar, even with light inks, you can kind of see through. But so to wrap out the standard questions, and this is one that so far both of my previous guests have really loved. What's your favorite stationery adjacent item? So an example might be like a book weight, a messenger bag, a lap desk, something that you use with all your stationery stuff that is not necessarily a pen or piece of paper or an ink.
So I probably will not be the only person to say this on your podcast, but Galen leather, Galen, that's a big deal in our house. We have a lot. This is my little, this is their current orange crazy horse that they just released. They're calling it orange, but it's really like just a beautiful reddish kind of color. We have a lot of those. We have a ton. We've got 3. This is my main daily catch-all. It's a B6 cover. We have multiple B6 covers. We've got A5s, and then we have a huge, gosh, what size is that one? It holds a large rodeo notebook that my husband's got. I can't, shame that I can't remember what size that is. Maybe A4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a large one. So we have a lot of that. And actually they're the whole reason, he surprised me with a trip to go meet them while they were in Chicago last year, because we're so obsessed with them. I saw that they were in New York, and I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to catch them when they're stateside, because they're out of Turkey, and they have such a beautiful story about their business and how they got started. And I just love what they do. Their products are heirloom quality. So this idea of things lasting over time, we love that. And so we got to go there and meet them at Atlas, and they're just the most precious people. They're so precious. So we love their products. And there are some limitations. You have to be mindful of what you're putting in there and how you're trying to write with them, because you've got pens on one side. So it's a preference thing. And then the other thing is Peg and All. I think they're out of Pennsylvania. They make wax canvas bags.
Okay.
This is a bag that I keep a bunch of mild liner highlighters in. And then this is a more pen stuff that I keep in there for my bullet journaling and everything. And then recently I've had this on my wish list for a while. They made the Sendoc. And it is
is that like Maurice Sendak? Like, is that the pronounce like Sendak? Like the author? Okay.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not familiar with that author.
The Wishing Tree, I think. The kids book.
Okay, yeah.
Or it's either or am I confusing? Or is it Where the Wild Things Are? Now I'm gonna.
Ooh, I love that. I don't know who wrote that.
I don't remember which one it is. I'll have to, if I misspoke, I will definitely.
We can just state it definitively and pretend that we're smart about it. So this, it's like a roll. It's an artist roll, and you flip this up, and they have some really hard chipboard in here that you can use to keep it from like rolling into a roll if you want to use it like flat, like I just did. So this is, I haven't decided yet. It is beautiful. It sells out quite often. You have to kind of wait for them to make another. It's great. If you want to take all your stuff on the road. I've not decided if I'm going to put my watercolor stuff in there or my pen stuff or both.
Does your B6 Slim fit in one of those slots? That would be the question.
Oh, that is a great question, because look, now on the inside it won't, but look on the outside, it has these spaces where you could absolutely put a notebook down inside there. Yeah, a B6 would absolutely fit in there. Oh, now you're giving me ideas. Yeah, it's beautiful, and I haven't. I love it. It's one of those things where you love it so much you haven't used it yet, you know?
No, I fully relate, but I love waxed canvas stuff.
Yes, that's too.
It's just, like you say, timeless.
Wears
things
well.
that are going to last.
Yep.
You know, it looks better the more worn in it is.
Yeah.
You know, that patina and that look.
Yes. Yeah. Peg and All, AWL.
Okay, we'll have to put a link to their
Yeah.
either website or social media in the notes, but that's kind of the end of the standard questions. So let's get to the important part.
Yeah.
Happiness Handmade.
Yeah.
So to start out, what is your mission? What's the vision you had with Happiness Handmade? What does it stand for? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, while we don't believe that happiness is like our ultimate aim in life, I think there are things that are higher than that to shoot for. We do assert that it is an endeavor that's very worthwhile and often requires facilitation. Like, we need to be purposeful about having some happiness, if that makes sense. So that's in short kind of what we're after and why we're doing this. There are a lot of unhappy, sad, hurting people out there, and it may sound really silly to try to do something so lofty with stickers, but that's what we're doing.
No, that's a great approach. You know, there's probably tons of businesses who are like, our approach and our mission is to make money. Money is kind of a side, you know, you want your business to be successful, but doing it for the right reasons, that's probably something that's commonly lost. And it's nice to see, you know, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And then turning it into a business is kind of the secondary or, you know, equal, but it's a different type of equal.
Yeah. And an example of that is like how happy were we talking? How happy did you make me talking about all this pen and paper stuff? You know what I mean? Like, we get happy about it. We get happy about it. And I think there's happiness in stickers for some people.
So, you know, I was looking at your website before this just to kind of, you know, see what all you had on there. And you talk about having always been an artist. So when did you decide to take your passion for art and make it into a small business?
So Happiness Handmade started, I think we started 2022, maybe. It's terrible I don't remember that, but it started out as an avenue for selling my watercolor paintings on canvas. So if you go to my website, you'll see a canvas tab. Those are my original watercolor paintings. The stickers that are on the website, the only thing that's like original start to finish are ones that say designs by Danielle Kindsfater at the bottom of them. The rest are not like originally mine from start to finish. But so when I first built it out, it was for art sales and for, you know, getting my stuff on canvas, because I would have people ask for that and I didn't have a way to do that. So, and in order to try to promote that business, I had to enter into Instagram. And Derek, I don't know if I'm too old. I don't know what it is, but oh my gosh, it's for like a year. Oh, I've hated Instagram. Oh, I've hated it. It's been I few times in my life have I felt as dumb as trying to make a reel. Now, over the course of the year, I've gotten a lot better. I've learned a lot. I've gotten a lot better. Our daughter has taught me a lot, and I don't know what I would do without her. So grateful to her for her tutelage. So I had to do that. And then just for my own personal self I realized that like everybody I'm following is like fountain pen stuff, paper stuff, sticker stuff. Like I'm just following all this stuff. And so just at some point I'm like, you know, I have always made things by hand for like as long as I can remember. Whether it's I've started out drawing, painting has been in the last decade, particularly watercolor painting. I think it's just the most magical medium. It has a mind of its own. It wants to do its own thing, and you have to try to marry what you want with what it wants, and it's a beautiful union there. So I get that I've crocheted, just anything I can make with my hands. I have done that and enjoyed it and realized that I get a lot of fulfillment out of that. And then also I'm just like kind of baseline the type of person where I don't like paying for things that I can do myself. So for decades I cut my own hair. So I'm like, I can do that. It might not look so great, but I can do that. I don't have to pay somebody to do that. So it's kind of that same thing where I've bullet journaled for many years and or for several years now, and I'm like, I can make my own stickers. Like I can do that. I can make stickers that I want to build out what I need. So it just kind of all, converged at once where I was like, well, I'm going to do this. I have this website. I'm going to start building this out. And, I get a lot of fulfillment out of creation and making things. I think happiness can come from making things. And I think that we're all capable of that. So people that are journaling or they're writing or they're making cards for other people, like they're making things and they're driving happiness from that. So I think other people can do it and get the same result. And I think that this is a big part. So the other part is that I'm particularly aiming to make sentimental and feel good designs that really move people. It's one thing to see a sticker and go, oh my God, that's so cute, or oh, that looks amazing, but I want to like elicit a feeling in someone. I want them to connect to it so that they can feel inspired in what they're doing. So if it's inspired to send that card or that letter to somebody because I just really think they'll love this sticker will make them happy, or I see this image and it makes me want to write a short story about something. It just inspires me in some way. So I'm looking to, in a sense, like facilitate happiness through connection with a creative element. It's really hard to define, but that's maybe the best way of like, how did I get into this? It's kind of hard to explain, but my ultimate going into the mission and vision is I really want something deeper for people, other than, well, that's a cool sticker.
Oh, that's great. Like I said, you're approaching your business from what is opposite of many, and it shows. You want it to be genuine. You want it to have, when you were describing that, it makes me think of, I heard someone say one time, Norman Rockwell paintings. They kind of want to tell a story where it's a single frame, but it tells a story. If you see that one of the Thanksgiving dinner, then it's a family Thanksgiving or something like that. And some of the stickers, because Beth bought a bunch, and I've seen just on Instagram and whatnot. They kind of have that that style, or when you see someone using it and writing around it, it does kind of give that, afterwards when the page is full, like, oh, look, that really ties in or gives that kind of look. No, that definitely makes sense. So in terms of the business, is it, you mentioned, is it just you and your husband? Do you have other employees, or is it all just an in-house, family effort?
If you count Kitten, he's sort of a part-timer, not a lot. He sleeps a lot. You'll see him on Instagram sometimes. It's my husband and I, and he's so great at a lot of the, I don't know the word for it. I don't want to say like business end of things, but that maybe might be the most broad way to say it. He's such an innovative thinker and has a great way of seeing how parts connect to the whole, and has great ideas for what we can do with the business and what we do with the business. And then he's just a tremendous help ground level and help with, website build out and all kinds of things. So it's he and I currently. Yeah.
Okay. And you kind of already covered this next question I had on the list earlier of what all you sell in your online store. So you sell some of your original art and stickers.
Yeah.
Do you have initial plans to add to that, or are you just going to be releasing different series of stickers, just kind of stick to the known, because like you said, you want the stickers to elicit feelings, and it's not just churn and burn. It's, stickers that have a meaning, or stickers that, relate to something, or, elicit a certain type of atmosphere or something like that. So is that kind of how your product selection, is it going to stay like it is for the time being and just kind of expand on that theme, or do you have other things in the works that you might be adding on, at some time soon?
Yeah, that's a great question, Derek. I always, of course, want to make the designs with this certain purpose. We have transparent matte stickers, and then we also have washi. People have different feelings about washi because, many people that use washi, they have about 57,000 rolls of washi that they don't touch, right? So people are less interested in the washi that I make. I love it because it's a peel and tear specifically, so I can tear it to whatever design. I'm not relegated to just like this thin strip. So I like them, and the way I build out my bullet journal is usually some stickers and some washi, and then I go with it. That's enough decor for me, if that makes sense, to make it feel a little special. So we have some washi in there too, and I specifically am trying to make some. I'm really trying to be purposeful to have designs that a man wouldn't be embarrassed to have in their notebook. And that would pair well with fountain pen things. And so a couple of collections of washi that I put out are really kind of cool, mid-century modern era neutral vibes that are good to put down on paper too and write around them. But we're a new business. We've been open less than a year, actually. So the phase that we're in currently is me trying to build up the basic stock of some of the most basic elements that I know people use. So I just finished a reading collection, and there are a million more reading collections I need to make, but I've got my first reading collection in there. I think it's like a 14 sticker sheet collection. And then by end of tomorrow or Wednesday, I'll have a writing collection completed. And I already have some things that are in that theme. But I'll have a new writing collection to release. So we're so much in the phase of building out the basics of what you want to find in a sticker shop that we haven't had much time to think about some of the other things. I have recently started thinking about, are there other stationery items that we want to sell? Do we want to be more of a stationery shopping place, or have a handful of those things that we sell in addition to the stickers? And I don't know yet. That is definitely something that we're thinking about. And I think for the remainder of 2025, there are enough collection builds that need to happen that probably won't branch into anything like that by the end of the year. Maybe, but I'm not currently. I think it would be tremendous to, because I'm such a fan of Tomoe River and notebooks and things, I've had in the back of my mind, it would be great to make a notebook, to do that at some point. But right now the focus is stickers for sure.
No, I like the idea of a notebook, because that's something, with your stickers, if you had a thematic notebook that, you had stickers kind of preset on some of the pages, or if you were able to get them set in when they're being bound, that would be cool. Even if it's like an ink journal, but you have your stickers built in there on paper or something like that, that would be a unique way to have something, because it's probably a tough market to break into, selling wider on some products, but you never know. But the stickers right now seem to be off to a great start. So that's always interesting. If especially with a new business, how could you grow, or do you want to grow yet? Versus what you said, you want to get kind of your staples kind of built up to a point where they can sustain the playing around and the R&D to figure out what's next.
Right. And there's so much dreaming involved with this. It's been a really fun venture for us. I mean, we'll just, oh my gosh, we could do this, we could do that. And so we definitely have a lot of ideas all the time, especially for collections. But we think often about what does the future look like? Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. So I know that you sell through your website, and you also, when we did the tour of Vanessa before the Arkansas Pin Show, Lisa was talking about that she is now carrying some of your stickers. So do you have anywhere else that's currently selling your stickers, or, is that on your roadmap as well to expand to having your stickers being carried by other stationers, abroad, like a wholesale type situation or anything like that?
Yeah. So currently Vance is the only place that I'm wholesaling with. I am interested in wholesaling elsewhere for sure. I'm interested in that, and we'll be doing some outreach for that. There's one sort of a local small business that I plan to approach soon about that, because I want accessibility. Of course, sales are important, but I want people to have access to them. Right now, I have a small marketing ability on Instagram. I have a very small following because I'm new. So I think wholesaling would be a great way to actually get my stuff in front of people, see if they like it. The feedback I get from a wholesaler is really valuable. And then there are wholesalers that sell certain type of stickers only, and they're not interested in what I'm making. They're interested in more of like a little planner doodad or something like that. Right. But my stickers aren't for everybody, for sure. So finding wholesalers that are interested in that particular sticker and the buyer that's looking for a sticker like that, I'm definitely interested in that.
Okay. So if you are interested, we'll put Danielle's contact information in the show notes for certain. Reach out if you run a shop, or, even if you don't, if you want to pick up some for your journal, definitely do that. And I'll also put a link. I'm working with Vanessa, and I have an affiliate code that could save you 10%. DWRD is a code. So that's always great to, add some stickers on when you're ordering your next thing to try them out.
Yeah.
It'd be great. I know that as soon as Beth saw them at the pin show, I think she bought one of every single sheet you had at your table.
She's tremendous. She's tremendous.
Yeah, she bought all sorts because she's been using them. She's kept up with her journaling, which is great. And
she came to my bullet journaling thing, and she's just run with it, and I was so chaotic. They got the first draft of my presentation. It was just all over the place. I'm surprised she derived anything useful out of that presentation, but she's done great. Yeah.
So up to this point, where have you seen the growth in your business? Is it coming from Instagram, you mentioned? Are there certain creators that have, kind of bought into the early adopter, so to speak? They've found you, they're using your stuff on a regular basis. Where are you seeing that growth?
Yeah, so I think currently the majority of sales come from Instagram. Now, when I say come from Instagram, I don't have my shop linked through Instagram where, you're in my post and you can just click. And I'm kind of weighing that, whether or not I want to do that. I think there are some pros and cons. I think on the back end, the interfacing, it may not be as great with the customer, and I'm not interested in that. So they'll have to do one extra click to get to my website, basically. But most of them are coming through Instagram. I've had several where my email marketing is picking up because I do offer a 10% discount for people that subscribe on their first purchase. And then in that series of emails that go out afterward, there's some additional discounts. So growth through there. I had another thought. There are a handful of people on Instagram that have made such a tremendous difference in my life and my business, and they probably have no clue how much they mean to me, even though I try to convey it. But there are Instagram people who are not affiliates of mine who have been so kind to feature my products which allows my product to get, in front of more people, and for more people to decide whether or not they like what I've got to offer. But these people, they don't have to do that. I'm not paying them to do that. And the fact that they take any amount of time to post anything of mine is like, whew, I feel like I cry. It's so overwhelming to me. It's so overwhelming to me because they are just so kind for nothing, for no reason. Like, why would they do something so kind, So Eliza Journals on Instagram has been tremendous. She's been so tremendous to me, so kind. Nibs and Tints on Instagram, he has been wonderful and supportive and exceptionally collaborative. When he posts anything of mine that he's gotten, he'll add me as a collaborator on that post, and that helps my algorithm so much. And he's got somewhat of a smaller account, so we're hopefully like helping each other grow, right? And that's, I think, so great. Not everybody in this sort of subculture in this industry are interested in helping other people grow. It can be more of a competitive mindset. So the fact that these people are just kind to be kind. Another major one is Rebecca Plans. She is just so precious and has featured my stuff for nothing, for no reason other than she is kind and supportive. Both her and Eliza really care about small businesses. And that's time out of their life that they take to put my stickers on paper and make a post. And then I am Chandra Broughton from Van Ness. She's an angel. She's an angel sent from heaven to walk around on earth. She is the most precious. She is one of my biggest supporters and fans, and I'm so grateful to her. She is so tremendous and wonderful. So any growth that I have, these people have helped me for just out of tremendous kindness, and I'm so grateful to them. If you do not follow them on Instagram, you should. You should find them on YouTube, wherever they are. Find them and support them because they are kind, generous people.
No, we will definitely put
them. Yeah,
we'll definitely put links to those, and then definitely we'll have your account there, because what I like to do when I find a new account on Instagram, and maybe everybody does this, maybe nobody does this, I go to who else they follow, because chances are there's going to be other accounts in there that I'm like, oh, look at this one, oh, look at this one.
Yeah.
But to have that kind of organic support and organic growth, that's honestly the best kind of growth for that business, because you're building a community, you're building a fan base, and you're not buying a fan base, you're building a fan base. And that really, it's just a different approach, because when people like your products, they're going to be your best cheerleaders. They're going to want to promote it because, hey, look, I use this sticker that I got from Danielle over here, so you can get them here. But did you see the new one that she posted that's coming out soon? It's that kind of organic growth and support.
It's for
so
any humbling.
Any kind of small creator or small business, that is more valuable than buying clicks by any means. Getting people who are truly passionate to see your products and appreciate them. That really seems to tie into your vision of wanting something that's long lasting. That's
it's
great.
A slower process. It's a slower process, and you endure more hardship in a sense in building your business because it's such a slow process. But the beauty of relationship is what happens there. I mean, over the course of months and months, there's relationship that's growing, and relationship with people that are buying, and that's just so great. It's so great. It's a slow process, but it's really great, and I am so grateful for it. And I can't generate that and make that happen because it's relationship. I can't control what this other person does. That's, I can send information, I can whatever, I can be kind, but you can't control what people do with the other side of the relationship, and it's just beautiful. Yeah, I'm so grateful.
So we first met at the Arkansas Pen Show this year. So, was that your first time doing a show, or are you going to try and expand out to the pen or the planner shows? Because that's a whole different, different realm. Is that on your roadmap to try and attend more in person events like shows or festivals or things like that?
Yeah. So, super extremely grateful to Lisa with Finn. Not enough good things to say there. She was so kind in passing on information about me, and I think because of that, the whole reason I was able to be at the pen show, which has been so tremendous for me. I was able to connect with so many people and buyers and things like that. So that was my first pen show, and her having belief that this would be a good thing for me was really just, I was like, okay, like I didn't know or have frame of reference for that really, and it wasn't on my radar necessarily. And honestly, I didn't think, I don't know how to say it. This is not the right word, but it's like, I'm not really worthy of that, so that's why I wasn't on my radar. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to go to all these shows and show off my stuff, so I appreciate Lisa believing in me and seeing something there that, I wasn't seeing. She's so kind to me in that way. And, so that was the first one. And now because of that, I am considering others. I'm looking at doing the St. Louis Pen Show this year. Waiting to hear back on that. I don't know if they have sort of an analog system for their sign up, it looks like. So I'm not sure if all their tables are full yet, but I've submitted for that and hoping to get to go to St. Louis. And currently, and then this weekend I've got a local author fest that a bookstore is doing, and they were so great and reached out to me. And so I'm going to get to do that this weekend. I'm really pumped about that. The author fest in Central Arkansas. So I'll do that, but other than that, I don't have any other shows on my radar, and I don't know about planner fests. It's kind of like, do you go to something you've never even been to? Like, I've never been to a planner fest. You go as a vendor to something you've never, so I don't know.
Well, I listen to other, podcasts, and I'm a patron of a couple of places, and on a well-appointed desk recently was talking about the Chicago Stationery Fest that was put on by a store up there. And it was, the Stationery Fest is different than a pen show in a way, because pen shows are traditionally, here's multiple rooms, you go around and you buy stuff, where some of the planner and Stationery Fests, they're more the teaching in the classroom. And, it's kind of different audiences that have crossover. And one other thing before we move to the next question that kind of ties into this, you were talking about, didn't feel worthy. On the recent episode of the Pen Addict podcast, Brad was talking to Annabelle, and I'm going to blank her name. Her Instagram is Strings and Petals, but she's a goldsmith and a nib maker. And they were talking about that imposter syndrome that small business owners have in these creative niches. Yeah. And once you kind of break past that wall, and, like you're saying, when you're going to get that growth that you're, I don't know if I belong. If you're thinking that, then that means you probably belonged before you ever thought you did. To kind of break through that move into that, move into that next phase, because
that would be tremendous.
Even just in this conversation, there's some people who are going to do better behind a table when they can talk. They can build that relationship, like you're saying, with somebody. Getting to talk to somebody versus, text. We've all had the text or, a direct message or something. And you're like, wait, they used a period. You get to that. What did they mean? It's different when you can actually, see someone's face and have a conversation. And that's where, shows can be invaluable for that, because you're building those connections. And then you have, like, my wife is a perfect example. She is now gung-ho bullet journaler with stickers. And we went to her, it was her birthday the other day. And she's like,
happy birthday.
I'm going to cut the label off this Japanese. We went to a new sushi restaurant.
Yeah.
So she had me cut the label off of her Japanese soda she got, so she could put it in her journal. Yeah.
Because it's so cool. Thing. And before, what would you have done with it? You'd have thrown it away.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's all from going to a class
Mm-hmm.
and, talking to people. She talked to
Yep.
you, she
Yeah.
went to your table multiple times, and,
Yes.
so that's where, shows, it's not for
Mm-hmm.
everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but that's where you can build that community,
Mm-hmm.
and then those people are going to go back,
Mm-hmm.
and share your products that you might never see. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling there's a lot of people in the stationery community and the planner community who try and avoid social media. I mean, we love analog
Mm-hmm.
things. We want to write with pens on
Mm-hmm.
paper.
Yes. It is
I work
effort.
in IT for
Tremendous
a day
effort.
job. The last thing I want to do at the end of the day is look at a computer again.
Yes. Yes.
It's that common, that connect. Like, that's why
Oh,
local
yes.
pen clubs are also great, because you're meeting up and getting to have conversations and
Yeah.
show off your new pens or your
Yeah.
journals or your papers with people, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us we like that analog sense.
Yes.
And,
Yes. And it's Instagram is a real struggle. And like I say, I've gotten better at it, but it's for the same reason. This is the first time I think I've been like on camera. Like, I don't get on camera on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, cause I hate all of it. I just hate it. I hate it. But I've accomplished so much with it that I'm starting to feel, maybe I'll feel this way about the Twisby. Like, I'm starting to feel like I've achieved something because I can make a reel and then post it to my story. But it is work. It is a lot of effort. And it used to take me forever to build out a single piece of content,
I fully understand that, because
Yeah.
traditionally one of my hobbies in the past was photography. So I'm normally the person behind a camera. I would hate there's years where I'm probably not in any of the photos unless it's another photographer at an event we'd be shooting, sniping me from across the venue or something. And then, so the natural next step is, what do? I start a YouTube channel that now I'm in front of the camera. Go figure, it's crazy how some of that works. But
yes,
I actually got the idea to start this interview thing because I like talking to people.
It's wonderful.
And doing it this way, not everybody's local, and this expands the reach of having an actual conversation with somebody to get to learn more about what they do. Because you see it some on Instagram. You might comment with somebody, like you're building a connection. It's just not the same. But
no, it's not. Yeah.
Along those same lines, like we were talking about, the planner shows or the planner community, and then there's a fountain pen community, and those are starting to kind of cross over. The streams are crossing, to use a Ghostbusters reference, where people who have been planning for years are now like, they try a fountain pen or they see something on social media or at a show, and they're like, let me go try and play with those toys. And then people who are on the fountain pen side are like, oh, look at those stickers. Look at that other paper. Look at what they're doing over there. Let me go see what that's about. So have you seen that as, your business is kind of one of those that is crossing the streams? You're, both sides of those spectrums that are merging into a larger stationary hobby. And, pen people, because Anna said this in her discussion about the Chicago Stationery Fest. She was one of the pen people going into the stationery show world. And she was, first time vendor at that event. She was saying that are people going to accept someone from the pen side?
Yeah.
And everybody was wonderful. And it was, so it's that kind of, there's two different subsets, because I remember the first time that Lisa Vaness was talking about going to whatever it was a stationery fest where I think she, Gentleman Stationer, and Well Appointed Desk all kind of went as pen vendors. And I think that's when she made the Bless Your Heart purplish pink ink for that event. Yeah. And, it was, and that's where learning about, they were mostly in classes. So the vendor room was only open a couple hours a day. So it was a different focus, but it was a refreshing focus. People wanted to go to the classes. And then after the class, you can only imagine, if you're having a class, you're doing a panel. Oh, yes, I have stickers. You can go get them at this table right after. Everybody's going to want to go and get what they just saw so they can see how they can use it themselves. So have you seen that with Happiness Handmade and your, new business, the planner versus fountain pen, are you
Mm.
seeing that, or do you see them as separate, or just talk about that a little bit from your side? I'm just talking
Yeah.
about it from what I've seen, being a
Yeah.
traditionally a pen person,
Yeah.
and then seeing the planner side coming to be and being more aware of it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what have you seen on your side?
Yeah, that's a fascinating. That's very fascinating. I feel like we could talk about for a long time. Um, so with regards to the business, I don't have any longitudinal data because we've not been open, for even a year. So we certainly weren't open prior to this crossover idea enough to see like a buying trend shift or anything like that. But I this idea that first of all of this is a subculture. We're None of us people are like main culture. This is a subculture all its own, which has its own cultural norms. But then we even have subcultures and subcultures. Like it's so layered. I never considered myself to be in a planner community. I didn't really do planning. Now, bullet journaling came about in my life um, in the last 6 years or so. And that allows me to have productivity aspects along with journaling. And I sometimes wonder if bullet journaling is not the crossover piece that has happened. And maybe I'm just projecting myself onto that, but I wasn't planner and I wasn't really fountain pen either. But here I am including some planning components in my bullet journal, and I've certainly got fountain pen stuff that's a recent addition. So I wonder about that because there are so many creators, when the bullet journaling first came out, Ryder Carroll. I mean, how many YouTube channels popped up of these people doing amazing creative things with a bullet journal that started incorporating all this stuff that maybe those people were using in their planners before. I don't know. So it seems to me that, well, first of all, let me ask you this. What would you call the fountain pen community? Like, what are they doing? So when I hear that, I think these are people that collect fountain pens. They love them. They love inking them. Sometimes they're purists, and it's like, we've got one pen that we like, and we've got one ink brand that we go with, and that's it. Or they have a multitude of those. But then what are they doing with their paper? Are these people that are journaling? Are these people that love to just like, I'm reading a book and I'm just going to sit here and write out this quote that I love so I can have a reason to use this pen? So is that the fountain pen community, or is the fountain pen community a person who's been an avid journaler forever and they love fountain pens?
I think it's both, honestly.
Really?
I mean, if I look at my history, I found the other day when trying to look for a picture to do a watercolor of, I searched in my photo app fountain pen, and I found a nib photo from like, oh, that's like 2016. But then I found a photo I took of my first sailor I bought at Vanessa in 2014. So for me at the time, I found a pen in a drawer, and I have a video I'll put a link to of how I kind of got into pens.
Oh, that's great.
Which got me to reconnect with my college roommate and his wife, who I introduced. And they live in Memphis. And so when I got into pens, they had developed the same hobby. Like my friend Chris, we were college roommates for 4 years, like into college and after. Neither of us did anything pen related. And then it turns out we're both fountain pen collectors after the fact. I mean, I never would have guessed that in school. I mean, I always like having, for me, like in high school, the Precise V5 was the roller ball to have with
What a
that
great
needle
pen,
point.
man. Yes.
But to answer your actual question, I think it depends. For me, when I got into pens, I was using them at work. I had the platinum desk pen set that I got at my desk, and I went down a rabbit hole. I bought random pens off eBay, some vintage pens, but when I went to the first pin show, it was a lot of the people there, I felt really young because it was a lot of older people who were, they liked their vintage pins. And there used to be, like about 10 years ago, was the fishing vest. There would be people who'd wear like a fly fishing vest to the pin show and
public
with the pins in the pockets and all of that. And then, so everybody kind of makes it their own, but I think in a general sense, if we did a huge Venn diagram, see, to me, I consider bullet journaling a form of planning. It's a different subset of planning, but it's essentially,
and I don't.
Yeah. And that's where we all approach it from a different angle. And that's why I thought this was an interesting question, because we, everything is based off our own experiences. So for me, if I was going to make my Venn diagram and I had a big circle and it was planning, I would consider bullet journaling, or even just list making. I've always been a list maker. Like lately, here's a list of things I'm doing for our trip coming up that I need to make sure I do in the next couple of days. And that's why the fountain pen friendly index cards are wonderful, because I want to write with my good pens, but I can write on index cards, and then having that little carrier. So, it's, we all are going to view it differently, but I think in a larger sense, for me, I keep a journal, I keep work notes. I've got in front of me a Galen 12 different notebooks of different sorts, 4 or 5 pen cases. I mean, not everybody does this, but for me, when I get into a hobby, there's no tiptoe. It's all in or no in.
Yeah.
And, I kind of collected hobbies throughout my life. This is one of those hobbies, though, that kind of spans. Like photography, it spanned when we our scuba diving hobby, or our when I had my motorcycle, I could take pictures while I'm on a motorcycle. There's some hobbies and pins are like that. Everybody's going to need to write something down, and then once you kind of settle into a niche, you might see something that, oh wait, I already have most of these things, I could do that too. And that's where I think journaling and like you said, and the vision, people wanting to have something that is a legacy or sticks around, but then there's also people who would never have been, into pins at all, and they have friends who penable them. That, I don't think that's an actual word, but it's a real word.
Yeah, that happened with my husband and a friend at work recently. He got him into it. Yeah. Now he's buying like a vintage Mont Blanc, right out of the gate.
Well, I've got my groomsmen presents were Karis Customs pins that I had engraved with initials at Vanessa.
Yeah.
So all my groomsmen had those fountain pens, and one of my good friends, he was looking for something as a stocking stuffer at Christmas. I was like, hey, well, we have a pen store now, and I know your wife is into Harry Potter. Well, they have the Harry Potter pens at Gentleman Stationer. So he ended up going over there, picking up a pen, picking up a notebook, and then now I was texting him the other day, he's planning to go back and get a different pen for himself.
Yeah.
And, next time I might not get cartridges, I might get a bottle of ink. So once people write with a fountain pen, because it's a different writing experience. There's something with the pen gliding across the paper.
Yeah.
Because I'm, like you said early on, I like some of my pens, my platinums and my sailors. I want to hear that scratch. I love hearing it.
Yeah.
Just as much as writing with it, because to me, that
auditory thing,
I love that sound. That and sailor nibs are known for it.
Yeah.
And some people hate that.
that.
Some people hate that sound completely.
Yeah.
So, it all comes down to preference, but that's why this is so great.
Yeah.
How many types of notebooks and papers and pens are there? Because you get it customized to you and how you plan to use it.
Yes. This idea of a Venn diagram is one that my husband mentioned. And I think it's a fascinating way to look at it. So, maybe fountain pens at one point were pretty far away from the center of the Venn overlapping, right? But they've moved more toward the center of being included in these other things. What I hope is that my stickers are going to maybe move more in people's frame of mind when they hear stickers. Just like you, they probably think planner, right? And my stickers can certainly be used in planners and are used in planners, but I've been shocked at the ways they're being used. They're being used in like a crafting realm, people that like to hand make cards, things that weren't even on my radar. I'm excited that I'm making a versatile design that can be used in different ways. So what I would hope is that my stickers in people's minds, instead of being way far out to the edge of a planner circle, let's push those way down to the center. How can I get them way down with fountain pens right in the center of all these different, and I say me, I didn't invent clear planner stickers, lots of people before me have been doing this, but I do think that maybe the transparent sticker in particular enables people to do something a little different. Then you can put that on paper like art and write around it. You're not feeling like a kindergartner with a white background where you're putting on a little emoji or, and there are amazing, tremendous white stickers and there are utilizations for that specifically. But I'm wondering if maybe the transparent matte is a way for it to be in the background, for it to accent. One of the things that I love to do is pair my stickers with my favorite ink color, so people are able to just kind of slap these on paper and write around them and it looked beautiful, but they didn't have to make it. They didn't have to do anything else with it if they didn't want to, and so maybe the transparent, sticker in particular can allow for more of a connection between all these worlds. If that makes sense.
No, I could see that, and some of it might just be as simple as branding, because me as a guy, when I hear sticker, I'm thinking of a gold star sticker.
Yeah.
Where your stickers, I think of more as journal art than I do as stickers, because it's not the term sticker is so generic that it can mean many different things. So it might be that, your kind of art needs its own, it's a sticker, yes, but it's not a sticker. It's
something else.
Right. It needs its own term because this thought just popped in my head. I have a feeling a lot of the now true planner journalers would have been scrapbookers, but no one prints pictures anymore.
Yeah.
All picture, if you think scrapbooking, my mom made books for me and my sister every year from kindergarten through high.
I was never any good at it, but yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, we had every program from every orchestra or choir concert. But that was what people did. They scrapbooked because all pictures, you're going to go get your film developed. But as digital cameras came up, that kind of created a shift.
Yeah.
So people they needed that creative outlet, and that's what it kind of progressed to. And that's just my opinion, but I could see where that would have, shifted over in that way.
Yeah, that's a brilliant thought.
But like you were saying, you like
an example of this when you get a second.
I just wanted to finish this one thought here. Like you were saying, you like to pair inks.
Yeah.
I don't know if your website has this ability, but one thing I like about when searching for inks, like on Vaness, you can search by color. So if you can add a tag in or something,
man, that's great.
You know what? I need. Yeah. I'm making this, and I just got this new orange ink. I need stickers that are going to match this orange ink.
That's great.
So adding in, so they can search for your stickers by color family, and then they're going to say, you know what? Of this sheet of 12 stickers, 10 of those are going to be perfect for this thing I want to do, and then the other 2 might be useful for something else because your stickers are multiple colors, and they might be primarily in a family.
Yes.
But,
yeah, that's tremendous.
I have a feeling once people have them in hand, if they're looking for a certain color, think of, because that makes me think of when we were picking out stuff for our wedding. Our wedding colors were this, so everything had to be something of those colors. So, if people are getting into that theme, because, Beth originally, she was, I just am going to use this ink in this pen. Now it's a new pen. Well, I need a pen to match that color of ink. And that's very common in the fountain pen world.
Yeah.
And that's where I think you said pens moving down in. Pins are not black cigar shaped pins anymore.
Right. No, they're not.
You go get you a Bennu or something.
Yeah.
It's like all the bling, all the colors, or all the custom makers.
Yeah.
At the Arkansas show, looking at all those blanks of all the mismatched colors, you know, for me, and I said this on the very first one of these, you know, I might hold up a pin and be like, this is the most beautiful creation ever made. And you might look at it and go, that is the ugliest piece of resin I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But that's fine because, you know, it's going to be, we all have our own preferences of what we consider for us. And that color theme, that's where I think the pins have been able to shift over because you're not looking at the plain black cigar-shaped pin that was kind of the standard. You know, you're not looking at a Parker 51.
Or just a black shaper ink.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so color has been really at the forefront, maybe because of my artist background. That's been at the forefront of some of the design, is that I know there are people that love certain colors. So knowing who I'm selling to and what they want and what they love has been really helpful. So neutrals are a huge deal, you know, understanding the market. People love neutrals. So I try to put a lot in neutral. There are boho themes, darker, you know, indigo type color blues. There are definitely certain colors that people love. I do know that we've got the metadata set up on my website to organize by color. What I need to do though is check and see whether or not it's pulling the way that it should when people search colors. So hopefully I've got kind of built out that model, but I can be more forward thinking in that for sure, so that people can maybe more easily get on there and type in a color. So maybe it can be coded right on the background. I wanted to show just a couple of these because you said gold star. When I hear sticker, I think gold star sticker. Just want to show a couple of them if they'll show up for us. And we'll get about 2 seconds where it will show up. There we go.
And it shows up if you hold it closer to your face, I think.
Oh, okay, there we go.
We can also put links. We'll have definitely links to showing some of these. So remember which ones these are, and we'll put a link to these specific spreads so you can kind of show that in the show notes as well.
I just grabbed a couple. So these are just like the boho neutral floral. This is one from the spring collection. So again, we're talking about favorite inks. Oh, I'll get it right here on my face. Here we go. And to just write around it, put an image down. But the gold star in particular, I have to plug this because I love it. People that do any type of like tracking of goals, like I want to drink more water, I want to work out 5 days a week, I want to read 3 books this year, read every day. I have this I call it treasured trove, and to me it's a leveled up gold star sheet. So it's like, and I did it like when I posted it on Instagram. I was really excited because I think you and I were probably born around the same time, but Goonies was a big deal. And I'm often like my husband and I are privately amusing ourselves. So like the song on it was like theme from the Goonies, you know, and it was like, oh, all that rich stuff. Remember when they finally found the jewels? So that's what this reminds me of. But I really try to get people to understand, like, instead of gold starring yourself, give yourself a diamond or a ruby. Like, grab this. Also, incidentally, has all the birthstones. People are kind of into that. So I tried to make it multi-purpose. But so I have things in my shop too that are productivity related, you know, different month headers and stuff that people can use in planners. Largely, it's a lot of imagery that you can add into either a bullet journal spread or just a journal itself. And then, so I have a couple other things to show, but maybe I'll do that right at the end. Do you want me to do it now? Let me show you right now.
Yeah, why don't you get it now? Because I think that was, you know, I only have one other question that I want to ask, and we've already touched on it a little bit.
Okay.
So go on and go show what else you're going to show, and then we'll kind of
show a little bit more.
Start to
so
wrap
this
that
is
up.
Kind of what it looks like when you just journal. You put it on and you just journal around it. That's a Ferris wheel Curious Woods ink that I used. This is stickers with a little bit of my washi matching the moth collection. And then this is one I did recently, and I'm so pumped about it because I'm so busy kind of creating and working on other stuff. It's hard for me to get time to kind of just slow down and do stuff for myself. So I did this, and it's also business related. It helps the business. Oh, here's this one real quick. Side note, Robert Oster ink with my stickers, but this is a great example of like building in the creativity into the use of these. So these are from my Fabled Flyers collection, and then the Sword Sirens and Serpent Swords and Sirens, I think, collection, the Knights and Ladies. But these inks on here are fountain pen inks. I think I used 5 or 6 different inks in total on Tomoe River paper. No bleed through at all, and I'm just like soaking it with water and ink or whatever. But so to do something like that and utilize these products that you have, these amazing inks, in creative different ways, I think is great. And part of why I like making these stickers, because I want to like expand the utilization. We're always looking for, like, we have 10 notebooks we want to use and all these new pens, and the stickers are hopefully a companion in expanding some creativity and some more freedom there with all of it.
No, I definitely think that makes perfect sense, because anybody who loves paper, you've got those notebooks that have been sitting. Because actually, at the Arkansas Pen Show back in 2016, the one year I vended it with like journal covers and whatnot.
Nice.
Vanessa had made, and I think I have it here. Let me see if this is it. Yeah, it is. So Vanessa made, like you were talking about.
Nice. Yeah.
This is just for the Arkansas Pen Show, and they had them for Atlanta, and it was like a 3-pack of these for probably cool. $10 or something. This is OG Tomoe.
Oh, nice.
And I took it to the panel we did, and some people had never written on it. So I was like, here's your chance. I just set it on the table for the ink swatching table and let people write on it, because it's a different feel. But this had been, I was kind of out of the pen world for a couple years. I used them for work, but then when I switched to working remotely, I was writing down a lot less. I wasn't going into meeting rooms. I wasn't, so for a couple of years there, I wasn't really using my pens because, at the end of the day from work, okay, my commute was walking down the flight of stairs to the living room, so it was very different. So getting back into it, and then, Beth getting into it as well. Now, like you were saying, finding time for yourself, we try and find time to go, to a coffee shop or something, leave maybe an hour or two over a weekend. And then it kind of forces to make that time, so that has, like you were saying.
And you would want to journal. You're at the coffee shop with Beth. You'd want to journal. Yeah.
Right. And that's when I do mine. I don't necessarily do it every day. I kind of empty my brain from the previous week. Or something like that. Or lately, like planning videos. Like yesterday, I was, looking at your website and making sure I had notes and everything done. I went to Starbucks because if I'm at my house, I'm going to turn on the TV. I'm going to... Oh, my computer's right here. Well, let me... it's a different mindset for me. And maybe that's the same thing. Like, I have to have the background noise. I have to have music over the background noise. So I can sit there and, concentrate, to write down the notes I needed to make sure everything was ready for today.
Yes. Well, and I don't know why this is, other than I think I'm a natural problem solver. I love solving problems. I think there's a tremendous gap in the industry for men. Largely, stickers have not been for men, right? And I'm really trying to close that gap. I have a long way to go with that effort. The Cedar and Sapphire collection is a great one. Of course, the dragons are great for everybody. The writing collection that I'm going to release, and I have lots of other like writing themed ones that are great. But there need to be more, just more options that are. I have some landscape ideas and stuff that are some things that men would be okay using. And I'm not trying to create such a divide. I mean, we all can like all kinds of things and all kinds of designs, it's certainly not relegated by color or, oh, men don't like florals. It's not that, but I need to have more of a selection. And I actually on my website have something called the Gentleman's Corner. And women buy from, lots of the items in there, but I am really purposeful to try to get more and more in that space, because if somebody like you, Derek, can be like, oh, I've got a few stickers, I can, I'm going to go with my wife to Starbucks and feel okay putting that down there. That would be just the coolest thing to me. I really want to be able to facilitate that for people that are into fountain pens and journaling.
No, and I wonder if that really ties in, because when I journal, I'm a lined paper.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my brain would not let me put a sticker on lined paper. Now, after I finish this journal, I think I'm going to do like a dot grid or something, or kind of split and do, because to me, lined, you just write on the lines.
It's a very good point.
You leave the very bottom line open or empty, because it's not a full line. That's just how my brain. But
and transparent is less jarring than putting a white sticker on there, but it's still going to be jarring if that's what's happening with your brain, right? It'll be too disruptive. Yeah.
Well, and now that I'm journaling with more frequency, I've started this book until it's done, and that's once again, that's my brain, the completionist. Once this book is full, then I can change how I'm doing it on the next one. I might have, well, here's a sticker, or here's a label, or here's a something. But for now, I've got to finish the one book how it is.
Yeah.
It
that makes sense.
It kills Beth, because I'll start watching like, oh, I want to watch Jaws. So that means I'm in for 4 movies. I've got to watch all 4. I'm going to watch John Wick. Okay, there's 4 movies.
Yes.
It's Star Wars. There's 9 movies. That's just how my brain.
Of that. My husband's like, we never finish anything that we start. I'll be like, oh, that was enough, and then we stop in the middle of a series, and it takes me a long time to get back to it. My attention span.
I'll at least just having it, have them play while I'm working. I have a TV in my office, so
me too.
I might not be actively watching it, but it's on just to. Yeah.
My husband calls it whistling, and that's what I do. I do a lot of whistling. I listen to everything. Yeah.
So just to wrap things up, what's the future for Happiness Handmade? What's the next step?
Well, and there's immediate and there's long term, right? I hope that the future is grand. I hope that it's even more grand than what we dream of. Truly. Immediate, more, by end of 2025, I'm really looking to start an affiliate program, which helps me with marketing, of course. I am more interested in the relationship side of that, having affiliates that have a huge following, on Instagram, it is great, but I'm also interested in people that are posting their content and they're new like me. They have very few followers like me. And they look at, they might be looking at somebody that's an influencer and they've got 15 affiliate codes. And they're like, gosh, how do they do that? I want to do that. I wonder if I can do that. Like, I wonder if there's a way that we could help each other grow. Right. I wonder if there are some people out there that have a really small page and they think, gosh, I like her stickers. It would be fun to be an affiliate for her. Maybe we can do it that way, so I don't know. We've been really talking a lot about the affiliate build out. And I don't know what that will look like, but the hope is that gets up off the ground. It might be a challenge for me to do because honestly, I don't have a tremendous following. So trying to find affiliates within that small following that I have, I'm not sure how that will go. But I would really like to do that. I'm also working on some other stuff on the website that hopefully I'll have finished by the end of the year, and I'll announce on Instagram if I can make it happen. But we're really interested in growth, of course, and have been excited about the growth that we have had, and it's been tremendous. But I think the affiliate thing will be a lot of fun and a lot of opportunity for expansion there. I also, this is just an aside, but man, I want to be able to do international stuff so bad. And I have just if anybody listening has any clue or anything, I have really struggled to get an affordable, as a new business, get an affordable international shipping with tracking. And some of that is the price point of my product. If I was selling a $500 pen, people are more inclined to pay a certain amount for shipping, right? But when you're buying sticker sheets that are $4 a piece, it's really hard to either absorb the cost of a tremendous, cost of international shipping. That's really an aside, but I'm just maybe hoping somebody, because I've been in a long battle here trying to figure that out. But I will continue to work toward that, because I have, there's people in other countries. We've got the UK, we've got India, we've got Jamaica. Like, there are different countries, and it's fine to do like a one-off, but I need to be able to do it on a consistent manner, or in a consistent manner. And I'm really trying to problem solve that. So I hope that that's in the future, is to be more on the international scene.
No, and that's great. And one thing to add to that, we hadn't spoken about this. What I've seen from the pin side is they'll find a pin person who has a shop, and you're shipping one package of a lot of stuff to them, and then they list the product on their website. Mm-hmm. I think Gourmet Pins, she's based in Canada, mm-hmm. and I think
Goulet
she sells Gourmet.
Oh gosh,
Aziza.
Okay.
She was one of those early, like before influencing was a thing. When I got into pins the first time, Pin Addict, Gourmet Pins. But she is really well known in the pin side. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember, and I heard it recently. I think she is like the Canadian source to sell like Birmingham inks or something like that. Like they pretty much only sell through themselves, and it might not be Birmingham. So, but the general premise is you find one person who has a store,
wholesale with them, international.
You wholesale them. You're shipping one box of everything, and then they sell the individual things through the cheap local shipping. So you find your one person in the UK or one person in Europe, and then everything else kind of goes through them. So that way, that's a potential thing to look at, because that's, I think, how the pin world is trying to get around that, because shipping, I know as a consumer,
so many meetings with UPS and FedEx, and just trying it, and there's lots of things that go into it, but it's a really small package too that I'm delivering. So there's some dynamics around that are proving challenging, and I'm like, it cannot be this hard, but I love problem solving, so I'm going to keep working at it. So I hope that's in the future.
No, so I think we'll go on and wrap things up there. So thanks for taking some time today. I think this has been a great conversation. We've covered a lot, and
it's been fun.
I think there's a lot of takeaways, because the one thing I'll kind of close on is, yes, you have a small following, but someone told me this as I was starting the YouTube channel. The internet really reduces scale, because having 200 people come into a room to hear you talk or see what you have, if you do that in person, that's a big deal. On the internet, that seems small, but you kind of have to sometimes think of it in terms of that human interaction. Having 50 people, having 200 people, if 10,000 people came into a room, that it's that sometimes gets lost. So even though you're smaller, everybody starts smaller and they grow. So that's something that it's beneficial to not lose sight of.
An encouraging thought.
The in-person, if you think of it to the real world, especially in this niche of the world, the stationary pin thing, you're better off than you think you are. Imposter syndrome, we're all affected by it. We all think, is this going to work? Well, the fact that you have a business running, it means it is working. It just has to find its natural progression from there, because it's very, the social media world, like you said, we're probably a similar age bracket. Everything was analog when I started. When I grew up, everything was analog. There's that niche where if you watch the Goonies, you're probably in what they call it the Goonies generation. We had fully analog childhoods, fully digital adulthoods.
Yep.
So sometimes you might be competing against somebody who's never known analog. They only,
Yeah.
they've only been in a digital world. So that's
Yeah.
one of those things. Just it's a good kind of, don't lose sight of that.
Well, it's encouraging, and it means so much to me that you would have me on here. Truly, it just means so much. I mean, these are things I cannot do on my own. Like, it's for you to offer up your listenership to any time for me. I'm so grateful for, and I hope that you're tremendously blessed for that in the days to come.
No, and like I said, I'm a big proponent whenever possible to support small business, and just helping promote, getting to a different audience, because I have a feeling most of the people from my YouTube side, they're probably more just on the pin side. But even just people, there's somebody who follows me from Australia that turns out she's a watercolor person. And once I started getting into watercolor, I was like, wait, I found their channel that I was already following when a video came up when I was looking for something. And so there's a lot of that cross between the art and stationery and journal world. So just as a final closeout, just tell everybody again your website, your Instagram, where they can find you online so they can see all these great products and, learn to start using journals or whatever, or learn to start using stickers or whatever they are to be named in the future that's not a sticker to denote their different type of quality. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, you can find my stickers at www.happinesshandmadellc.com. If you type in, I think without the www, it doesn't work. It takes you to some weird site. And then my Instagram is Danielle Kindsfater, which is, you'll have it in your description. It's a hard thing to spell. It's that handle because that's how it is in the art industry. And I started out everything in the art industry, so I haven't shifted it over yet to a different Instagram handle. And there's so much that's out there that's linked with that handle. I'm concerned to do that, but yeah, Danielle on Instagram, and then of course there's email on my website and everything if anybody has any questions. And then Vance carries my products as well, which I know you're an affiliate for, which is awesome.
Yeah, so be sure and check out Danielle, and she mentioned earlier, if you didn't hear the part, sign up for her newsletter and you can get 10% off your first order through her website. So, that's always good. And then you'll get to see the new stickers as they come out, the new series and whatnot, because
on Instagram,
that's, you might not see something right now that's your cup of tea, but then the next release might be exactly what you're looking for. So be sure and check that out.
And Derek, in relationship to that, I try to release 2 to 4 collections a month at this point. That's sort of my tempo. And anytime I do a new release, I'll put it on Instagram. I'll make a reel of that. And I'm trying to get better at sending out an email as well.
No, great to know. So that way, be sure you find all of the different sources to be able to follow Danielle online and see all these new releases so you can add these into your journaling. But just a reminder, for video, you can see this on YouTube and on Spotify. And then there's an audio only version available on Apple Podcasts. Currently, I'm looking at trying to get this to some of the other delivery systems, but with it being new, some of those things take time and they're in process. But once again, I want to thank Danielle Kindsfater for coming on today from Happiness Handmade, and we will see you on the next episode.